Alright, looks like we are good to go. Let's get rid of this. Hey everybody! This is SableDragonRook. Welcome to NASA, and welcome to Spyro Reignited Trilogy. Spyro 80 Dragons. This is the PS4 version of Spyro, and timing is going to start here in just a second. I will give you a countdown. So as long as we're ready to go, timing is going to start in 3, 2, 1, go. So hello everybody. Hope that you're all doing well today, and thanks for joining for Spyro 80 Dragons. The goal of this run is going to be to collect all of the game's 80 dragons. There are only 80, so that's gonna be everybody. And for those unfamiliar with Spyro, why do we have dragons trapped in crystal? Well, the big bad boss of this game is named Nasty Nork, and the dragons had the misfortune one day of calling him ugly, and he wasn't a big fan of that, so he decided, you know what? To get back at these dragons, I'm going to turn all of them to crystal, except for Spyro, because, you know, reasons, I guess. Maybe he was too tiny, I don't know. But all 80 dragons are trapped in crystal. We gotta go touch them, and then they will come back to life. So for right now, our goal is going to be to just run from dragon to dragon. We don't need to worry about gems, we don't need to worry about eggs, and that's going to be quite a lot different from probably most of the other Spyro runs that you have seen if you've seen people run Spyro. Because in order to move from world to world, we would normally need to collect, you know, collectibles. It is a collectibles game, so that sort of makes sense. We have some balloonists, they're our friends, and they are just hot air balloon pilots that sort of chill at the end of these home worlds, and they say, hey, you know, I'll take you to the next place if you do something for me. They're worried about the dragon realms as well, so they're like, you know, hey, I'm not gonna take you to the next world until you free some dragons or until you gather up some gems. You know, they want to make sure that everything is okay in the dragon realm. But for the sake of this run, we actually don't really need to worry about that because this is a glitched run. So we're just gonna kind of cheat our way into worlds that we're not supposed to be in. And I'll talk a little bit about how that works as we get closer to it. For right now, we are in Artisan's World. This is the first home world. You'll always start here. And we are just picking up the dragons that we can get here. There should be 16. This first balloonist at the end of Artisan's World is one that we do have to, you know, fulfill his requirements. He asks that we free 10 dragons. Thankfully for us, you know, this is 80 dragons. We're going to be getting dragons anyway, and that's not a big deal. Now here in Town Square we have a little bit, it's not so much a glitch as it is just an exploit. When the dragon that we free, named Nils, disappears, a fairy will pop up in his place, and for some, you know, inexplicable reason, she'll leave a little tiny hitbox in the air when she appears. And so we can use that to get over this big wall that I'm looking at, and right to the end of the level. That prevents us from having to do essentially 2 circuits around this level, a lower floor one and one that's kind of up on these hills. We can just hop straight to the end instead. So we've already got our 10 dragons now. For the balloonist, we'll just pick up all of the ones that are left and call it good. Now you may have noticed that I used the guidebook to get out of that level. There's 2 ways that we can exit levels. One is by hitting the start button and then choosing exit level, and one is by opening the guidebook and selecting, in this case I selected Artisan's World, you know, selecting where you want to go. Those serve different purposes. If we exit the level, we'll come out in front of the portal that we entered, but if we guidebook, we'll go to where the balloonist would take us if we asked to go to this home world. And in this case, the place where the balloonist would take us is much closer to the next level that we want to go to, so we guidebook to get there instead. And we'll do that a couple more times. throughout this run, as it is convenient. Dark Hollow here is a level that you don't necessarily see in every Spyro speedrun. It's one of the most commonly skipped levels, mostly just because there's not really much here. If you're looking for gems, there are certainly better places to get them. If you're looking for dragons, there are easier places to get those too. So you don't see Dark Hollow too often, but we are going to need it, not only for the dragon that's here at the end, but because one level in Artisans requires that you leave through the return home portal, which is what I just did. It doesn't matter what level, but you have to do it at some point in order to open the boss, Toasty. So because that dragon is right in front of the portal, this is the best place to just hop out that way. So you can see this dragon head is opening in the background now that we've exited via return home portal. Keep that dragon head in mind. We're going to see those again, or rather we're not going to see those again, and you're probably going to be wondering why. So keep those in your brain, remember how they work, and we'll come back to those later when we start glitching the game. All of the bosses in Spyro, every world has one, are home to only one dragon. Dragons serve as save points, so if something happens to Spyro, he'll come back to his most recent dragon. And because they're bosses, you know, they kind of just give you a save point before the boss. Let's be real, Spyro bosses, probably not, you know, Dark Souls boss level quality here, so you're probably not going to need the save point. But because, you know, they give you a save point just in case, there's only ever one dragon in a boss level. So we do have to go and deal with the bosses just for the sake of their dragon. That means that we don't actually have to fight them because all the dragons are before the bosses. I suppose with one exception, we are going to get to see Blowhard, the boss of Magic Crafters. We'll get to see him very briefly, but other than that, we don't deal with the bosses. So you can see here that I've hopped into the Balloonist's balloon. This balloon is the crux of how we break the game, and it is going to be in this world, Peacekeepers, where we break the game. But it's not going to be till the end, so hang on just a little bit longer before we start diving into this majorly glitched category. Spyro, as a game in general, the Reignited Trilogy at least, has a little bit of a reputation for very long loading screens. For reference, I am playing this on a PS4 Pro with an upgraded SSD, and this is still just how long the loading screens are. If you want shorter loading screens, if it interests you to play this game, the PC version is much shorter on the loads. You're not really supposed to be able to make that jump, but in this reignited version, charge jumping is just insanely broken. You can go so far. We're also going to take this extra life just for a little bit of marathon safety. The glitch that we're going to be doing automatically takes a life if you should fail it. So we're going to need to do the glitch twice, so that's 2 lives. Even if we do succeed, you do still need to pay a life, so 2 lives for the glitch, 1 life for an intentional death in Wizard Peak. That leaves us with 3 out of the 4 lives that we have, you know, automatically accounted for. So we'll just take that extra life just to, you know, avoid a game over. There are some other dangerous things in the run. If we game over, it's not a super big deal, but this is a speed run. Who wants to game over?
Got a donation if I could real quick.
For sure.
We have a Kiddo Fox who has donated $20, says, "Welcome to NASA 2020 Disc 1. Way to go for Sable, kicking it off with a wonderful remake of a wonderful game."
Awesome. So here we have our first encounter with blue egg thieves. These guys, you can see they have this little pink dragon egg. We're gonna need 5 of those dragon eggs in order to progress through a later world. That's another one of the balloonist requirements. He's gonna say, you know, hey, I'm not gonna take you any further until you give me 5 dragon eggs. One of the sort of quirky features of this game is that some things that are normally unskippable become skippable if you are moving downward, if you have downward momentum. So whenever possible, you'll see me try to flame these thieves while I'm like falling down, because that lets us skip the cutscene. The cutscene being the little pink egg sort of homing into Spyro. And the same is actually true of the first dragon, Nestor. He's also supposed to be unskippable, but at the very beginning of the run, I did like a little hop right as I freed him so that we would have downward momentum to skip him as soon as he started playing. Dr. Champier is the boss of Peacekeepers. Again, not really gonna see him. He's just off chilling in the distance past the dragon that we need, so we're not gonna end up seeing him. However, this is a good opportunity to begin to explain how broken this game is about to be. So we talked about the balloonist, we talked about, you know, traveling between worlds using the balloonist. One thing that's important to remember is that while I'm in that balloon, when the balloonist is taking me from world to world, I can't move. I have to sit there, I have to watch, and then, you know, it happens. However, outside of bounds in Peacekeepers, which is the world that we're in now, there is actually a residual dev tool. The developers had this little innocent looking box that they didn't remove before they published the game. Whether they didn't remove it on purpose or just because they didn't feel like it, you know, who knows. But the fact remains that it's kind of tucked away outside this wall that I'm heading toward right now. Outside of bounds. You're not supposed to be able to get to it. And it's a developer's balloon. Essentially, it is a piece of game that just lets the developers move between worlds in Spyro whenever they want. In other words, they don't need to fulfill the requirements in order to go. You know, they don't need the gems, they don't need the eggs. Whatever the balloonist is going to ask for, they don't need if they use that tool. So we're going to trick our way into there so that we too can go anywhere we want without having to fulfill the requirements. And that's why we don't need gems. Both of the worlds that are going to require gems are going to be glitched into. Now, how do we achieve that? I talked earlier about the fairies that appear after you free dragons. You're not really getting an opportunity to see them too much because I'm running away, you know, as soon as I free a dragon, but we do have fairies that pop up after every dragon. They're there to save your place, and, you know, if you want to watch the dragon again, you can also talk to the fairy. This is version 1.0 of Spyro. It's the version that came, you know, on the day 1 discs. And in this version, if you talk to a fairy, and then you glide away from the fairy, but keep her dialogue box open, and then before you hit the ground from your glide, you exit her dialogue box, and you have to be, a certain distance away from her, you will be able to talk to that fairy anywhere. You can go to the other side of the map, it doesn't matter. She'll be there. And that's great because the game thinks that you're controlling Spyro when you're talking to a fairy, because why wouldn't you be? You just freed a dragon, right? So if we can achieve this fairy storage, is what it's called. If we can achieve fairy storage and take the fairy with us, we can speak to her while we're in the hot air balloon, and that'll let us control Spyro and get out of bounds to reach that tool that I was talking about. So let's see here if we can achieve fairy storage off of Magnus.
Hi, Spyro. Hi, Spyro. Hi, Spyro.
Yes, we did. So as you can see, I can walk over here, I can talk to her. It's great. So this balloonist is going to say, hey, you don't have the gems that you need. And so I'm going to say, okay, well then take me to Artisans, talk to the fairy to gain control of Spyro, and then charge out of the balloon. So that little box is where we're trying to land. That's the developer's tool. And we did land in it. So that's part one. That's great. We can choose anywhere that we want to go without fulfilling the requirements. So we're going to choose to go to Nasty's world. The screen is probably, going to flicker a little bit because it is loading both Nasty's world, which I told it to go to, and Artisan's world, which I told the first balloonist to go to, at the same time. The game is getting really confused. I just death abused in order to clear the game of trying to take me to Artisans. This is the cutscene that plays when you first start the game, because the game has no idea what's happening. So here we are in Artisans. Just kidding, we're in Nasty Nork's world. We've cleared the game of our first request to go to Artisans, and now it's fulfilling the second request, which is to go to Nasty's world.
Nasty's ancient history now. Free you? So
You're in
what's in there?
Nasty's world now,
I believe
Spyro.
this is Nasty's
You are the
treasure
dragon that
hoard.
must defeat him.
The gate
Bring
will
him
only
on.
open
I'm
if you
ready.
have found everything
Reach
in the
the
Dragon
exit in
Kingdom.
each of
Come
Nasty's
back
lands.
when you have reached
Then
100%.
you can challenge the Nork himself.
So Twilight Harbor here is not housed inside a dragon head right now. Normally it would be. It's the same kind of dragon head that would be covering Toasty. That's why I told you earlier to kind of keep that in mind. So why is all of this happening? Well, the game is it has no idea what's going on. It says, hey, you're supposed to have 6,000 gems in order to be here. What are you doing here? And so it doesn't know what to load. It didn't expect us to be here, and so it's like, I am very confused. And so it loads both dragons, because one of those dragons is only supposed to appear after you defeat Nasty Nork, the final boss. But again, because we're not supposed to be here, the game is like, I guess I'll load both, because I don't know what's happening. So we can play both of those dragons, and the dragon heads are similarly, not here, because the game isn't ready for us. And that is why we have to guidebook out of here. The game has, at this point, caught up. It's like, okay, I can get behind this. You're in Nasty's world. So you can see this dragon head is here now, and it's closed. It's finally loaded in. So if we had tried to just exit the level, the normal way, we would have just come out into a closed dragon head and then just been stuck forever. Spyro kind of has like a permanent falling animation that he does when he's stuck in that dragon head. So that's why we went in there first, because it would be closed otherwise. And we are going to do that glitch again, because Nasty's world isn't the only world that's locked behind requirements that we don't feel like doing. Nasty's world was locked behind 6,000 gems, so we wanted to make sure, for sure, that we, got into here without getting those. But Magic Crafters, the next world chronologically, is also locked behind 1,200 gems. So we're going to be balloonist skipping our way into there. And this is called Balloonist Skip, and that is why there is a category of Spyro called any % no Balloonist Skip. That would be, your standard any % category. It's alright to get hit by that guy. He's just always in the way. So Thomas, there is the end of Nasty's world. Order of business number 1 now is just to get into Magic Crafters. So that means we're gonna go back to Ice Cavern just because it's the closest level to Magnus, from whom we're going to get that glitch again. And so we'll hop out and do it again.
Hi, Spyro.
You're not, guaranteed to get fairy storage on the first try. It's kind of a tricky thing to get. We got it there on the second try, that's fine.
I'm still up on Spyro.
So again, we'll take control of Spyro by talking to the fairy, charge out of the balloon, and do our best to land inside this dev tool. Alright, we made it. It does matter when I do this input to say where I want to go. Yeah, Spyro's going in sideways. We're looking pretty good. So it's loading artisans and magic crafters at the same time. That's why it's freaking out. And so again, we'll take this death abuse to tell the game, hey, thanks for taking me to artisans. We're done with that. Please take me to magic crafters. Opening cutscene because, reasons, why not? And we'll be in Magic Crafters. Same principle as Nasty's. Stuff will not be loaded in. The dragon will still be here, thankfully. But there is actually a really convenient thief, an egg thief at the beginning that unfortunately will not be here because the game isn't ready for us. So there's supposed to be a ton of enemies, that thief, all sorts of stuff going on here. Cycles with wizards and all sorts. But the game wasn't ready for us, so none of that is there. Now, one important thing to understand about how this category is timed, and how all categories for Spyro Reignited are timed, is that the guidebook has an in-game timer on the top right, so we time via in-game time. That means that, strategy-wise, you want to be doing things that don't spend in-game time. When dragons are playing, in-game time is not passing, but the rest of, everything else, the rest of the level is still continuing to exist. So this dragon up here, I am actually going to let play for a little bit, because everything in the level is still cycling while he's playing, but in-game time is not passing. And I did that so that this wall would be coming down as I came towards it. In other words, I just manipulated the cycle so that it's more favorable to me without having to spend any in-game time. And we are already halfway done with our dragons. The requirement to leave this world is those 5 dragon eggs. Not gonna get that guy, he's way too fast. It's true that we could do the balloonist skip again to avoid, having to do these eggs. But the eggs are essentially right in the way anyway. You could argue that it's perhaps a couple seconds faster to do the glitch, but for the risk, it's not really worth the reward. Because if you fail that glitch, there are many places where you can fail it, you're gonna lose a minute, perhaps a little more. If you miss the dev balloon, Spyro will just end up falling back into artisans and you can try again. But if you do your inputs wrong for, for example, choosing what world you want to go to, if you do it too fast or too slow, the game will soft lock. Depending on what frame you hit it on, it'll do a couple different soft locks. Sometimes Spyro won't be able to move anymore. Sometimes he'll fall like underneath the death floor, and so he'll just fall forever. Sometimes it'll load the world boxes of both worlds, and you'll be able to kind of depressingly see them from a distance, but you can't actually reach them. So there's all sorts of soft blocks. And the nature of the glitch certainly makes this category challenging in that, you know, there's multiple parts that you have to get right. If you fail fairy storage on the first try, if you fail the balloonist, you know, the run is dead, essentially, as far as competitive times. But did we have a donation there that I was hearing?
Yes, we did. We had one from Crit. Says it's not much, but everything counts. Thank you for putting on the effort.
So this is the level where we are going to be taking the death abuse. It goes back to the principle of dragons being save points. Back here we've got an egg thief. We'll get him with downward momentum so we don't watch his cutscene, and then just hop back to our save point dragon. So one more egg. We need one more egg in order to leave, and that's also going to be in this level. Technically, we could hop back to the beginning of Magic Crafters where I said that that convenient egg thief was. But, you know, we just happen to be here, so we'll grab this one. And landing in that water is kind of intentional because, as I said before, it gives you the downward momentum. You know, charging into that water gives you the downward momentum to skip that cutscene. If anyone is interested in running this run, it is a category on both PC and console. If you want to run it on console, be aware that you do need an early version of the game, an early disc. If you buy a disc now, just like out of the stores, it'll automatically come like baseline version 1.03. So you won't be able to do this. You need to backpatch to version 1.0. And if you want to run it on PC, you can still do the balloonist skip. It actually looks different, and it's unique and fun in its own way. You kind of glide yourself into the side of the world, and then walk across empty space. It's very interesting to watch. So this is Blowhard, this world's boss. That little flame to his face there is the extent that we're gonna see him. Because his dragon is right here. And aside from 80 dragons and any percent, which is actually a donation incentive for this run, all categories are run on version 1.3.
Would you like to go?
The much more modern and admittedly much smoother version of Spyro Reignited.
On the subject of that donation incentive, we are at $47 out of the 100 for that any percent run to get added on after this.
Well, we've got 2 more worlds to make it through before the time would come for that incentive, so we still got some time to make it there. And that Spyro any percent is by far the fastest Spyro run that we have, coming in at, on average, probably about 8 minutes to beat the entire game. We'll finish at, I do believe it's 4% completion. I actually did want that fodder. It's alright that he got away from me, but throughout the run, I have been kind of low-key charging into like these little chickens, these things that give butterflies. They're called fodder animals. The reason being that every 10th one of those that you pop for a butterfly, you will get an extra life butterfly, which will take Sparks from whatever color he is, doesn't matter, to yellow, and it'll give you an extra life, obviously. Beastmakers here is definitely the hardest world in terms of like taking damage. It doesn't matter how much you run this game, you can still definitely accidentally die in Beastmakers. So you try to set it up so that your 10th fodder comes at a point, you know, that is challenging for you. For me, that's usually Misty Bog or Treetops. So that it's kind of, you know, a free heal, essentially. Gives you a heal up if you need it.
We have a donation in by Quo. Just toast those enemies and collect the treasure.
Thanks, Quo. Now, Beastmakers contains a lot of long and convoluted levels. This level is going to be the only one in the game, I hope, that we leave without collecting all the dragons. We're going to intentionally leave before we've gotten them all. Bubba here is going to be the last one for this first run through, and the run will actually end when we come back to get the rest of the dragons. The reason is just that this level's kind of shaped weird. It's kind of shaped like a Y. So it's faster to do like one branch of it and then come back and do the other branch than it is to backtrack. I do have 0 sparks right now, and I might be just a little bit concerned. That's why, you know, we run through and try to pop these fodder animals. I'm hoping for a full heal here as we get into Treetops. The long jump to Jed, you know, lots of people call it the Jed jump, in Treetops here is, I think, probably what's most iconic for people in Spyro. If you were a kid and you figured out how to get to Jed, you were just on top of the world. Because you're supposed to use supercharges throughout this level to, you know, bounce from supercharge to supercharge and go faster and faster, further and further, all the way around the level, picking up, you know, 3, 4, 5 supercharges until you figured out how to get back to Jed. Unfortunately, we're not going to do that because there is a faster way. Instead, I am going to pick up supercharge from here, tap this building to slow my momentum, and hop right down here to the end of the supercharge puzzle, which will get us straight to Jed without having to, you know, stack supercharges. And at Jed, we should be at 60 dragons, so we are right on track. We'll get supercharged just to get over to this guy, Isaac, a little bit faster. And that is all the dragons in treetops. We do not spend a lot of time there. So now the only thing we have left in Beastmakers is Meadowhead, the boss. He, in my opinion, is like an actual genuine boss. He's kind of hard. Thankfully, you know, we don't have to fight him because his dragon is in front of him. Hopefully we'll see that fodder pop an extra life for us here shortly. One of the monkeys up here might get it for us. The monkey did pop a fodder, but he didn't pop an extra life. That's fine, we're back up to blue. So that's the end of Beastmakers. We have one world left, that's going to be Dreamweavers. Normally, you know, chronologically, it would be Dreamweavers and then Nasty's World, but we did Nasty's World long ago using that glitch. For no particular reason other than, you know, get Nasty's World out of the way.
Are you ready to go?
This balloonist required 50 dragons, which, you know, this is 80 dragons, so that's certainly not an issue. We had 50 dragons easily.
We have a donation in from Anonymous. Exciting, this event is finally happening. Looking forward to that additional any percent.
Thank you. So we're hopping into Dreamweavers here, and starting out in Haunted Towers, which contains another supercharge exploit that is much tighter and much more unforgiving than the one in Treetops. Like, truth be told, I have 3 PlayStation controllers, and I can only do this on one of them. It is very precise. If you have any dead zones on your joystick, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to make this tight turn. So, hopefully Old Faithful holds out for me here. But in exchange for doing a rather hard trick, you get to skip most of what ends up being a very large level. Dreamweaver's levels are some of the longest in terms of just time it takes to cover all of the ground of the level. So this is a super flame power-up. It will let Spyro's flame break things that normally his flame would not be hot enough to break, like metal. We can use it to break these armors, which we're not really going to do, but we are going to use it to break this door. You couldn't see it, but that was a metal door back there that I just blasted through. And we'll get the dragon afterwards, so that it saves our progress after the door is broken, just in case something goes awry with this trick. Alright, let's see if we can double back on the supercharge. We're going to try to go backwards. Close. We actually did get it, but part of the fun, right, of running on Spyro 1.0 and not 1.3 is that invisible walls in this version are huge. So I kind of got clipped on something that wasn't actually there, you know? I'm going to go ahead, and I tried to make it, but we didn't. That's okay. That's what the dragon is for. So that is another reason that we want to try to pop that extra life, you know, in case something goes wrong with this trick. We want to have a couple extra chances. Alright. Not too much problem with that trick, going backwards on that supercharge.
Sable, I have news.
What's up?
We have met the $100 to add the any percent run after this.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Y'all just couldn't get enough of that glitch, huh? Well, we will be blasting through Spyro in approximately 8 minutes. In-game. No, real time. That's real time. The in-game time is, for world record, close to 3 minutes to complete the entire game. We gon' zoom. And we are getting pretty close to wrapping up this run as well. Dark Passage is essentially just a straight line. We want to avoid the red dogs just because their animations for eating you are insanely long.
We have a donation from Timrod. It says, donating just to spite the Jed jump. And that was the one that actually completed the big incentive for the 10% run too. Thank you very much, Timrod.
Yes, thank you. Jed jump is certainly, you know, one of the more challenging points in Treetops. If you run any percent NBS, there is actually an even harder supercharged trick that I have to admit I probably only get about 60% of the time, maybe. So 80 Dragons kind of has me sighing in relief at Treetops not having to do that.
There's also a donation in there sent from myself. I never did complete Spyro when I was a kid. Thanks for putting on a good show for us, Sable.
Thank you. I hope everybody has enjoyed the run so far. It's always a good day for me if I get to zoom with my little purple boy. So we're at 71 dragons. We have 9 more to go, and we are very near the end. My favorite dragon is coming up. I'm actually going to let him play for just a second, because again, in-game time doesn't pass. So I'll let him play for just a second so y'all can see what he looks like. I just really like his design. They've done an amazing job with this remaster as far as, you know, concept and design. It's a really fun game to play even casually. This is him, Latif. I just really love his design. So if you've never played this game before, the Reignited version is definitely an awesome place to start. We're at 1,001 gems. Just for funsies, I do try to complete these runs when possible, with under 1,000 gems. There's absolutely no reason to do that, but, you know, just kind of fun. The reason that I have more than 1,000 is because we failed the Haunted Towers thing the first try, so I accidentally charged through some extra gems. But in the end, it doesn't matter.
I want to remind people real quick that we are collecting donations for Save Children, which is an organization that helps children get access to medical care and education in places where they may not readily have access to that. We did make the donation incentive for the 80% run after this, and there are other good rewards and incentives on the tracker. I encourage you to go look and see what they've got to offer.
For sure, I mean, I can only save 80 dragons, but together we can all save probably lots of children. So keep those donations coming in. More supercharges coming up here. This supercharge, I am actually going to hug really close to a wall, and we will discover that the wall doesn't really exist. We're just going to zip right through it. It's there to look pretty and nothing else. Right through that wall. There is actually an even faster way to get to the end of the level here, but it's a little bit more convoluted, a little riskier. We'll play it safe. Now, I suppose I was a little bit incorrect earlier in saying that all of the bosses in Spyro have one dragon. That's actually not true. Jacques, the boss of this world, has 2 dragons. Presumably because he's supposed to be, you know, super spooky. And because his level is just kind of hard, it has a lot of difficult platforming. But we can't forget poor old Zakomo over here, who's just chilling on his own in a place that we don't really need to be. So we'll grab him real quick, and then it is off to Jacques. After Jacques, we're just gonna pop back into Misty Bog to pick up those remaining dragons, and that will be the end of the run. We are on a little bit of a time crunch here. It's pretty forgiving if you don't stop to grab any gems. The first jester, they're called fools, that I flamed, put this platform down for us, so we need to make sure that we get to it in time. I'm not gonna bother with the other fool, because I can make this with one of those OP charge jumps. Okay, so that is it for Jacques. We're gonna head back to Misty. For staff, timing is gonna stop in this level, so we want to start to prepare for that. So across from Roscoe is the worst room of the game. Like, I am going to get hit. Thank goodness we have yellow sparks, because I'm just gonna get hit. There's so many enemies in here, but timing will stop when I free this dragon and then pull up the menu afterwards. So I'll call it here in a second. Timing will stop now. So at 21:12, you know, pretty casual, pretty fun run. I hope that everybody enjoyed. And that is all 80 dragons, far be it from me to admit that I have certainly finished this before with 79 on accident. But I hope that everybody enjoyed. I don't really particularly need any prep for this bonus any percent that we've met. Thank you everybody who donated for that. So if staff just wants to maybe reset the timer, we can get going on that whenever they're ready.
We have a donation as your transition from one run to the next from Rod G that says, "Hi, Mom."
So I will be ready to go whenever everyone else is ready to go. But thanks again, everybody, for donating for the incentive and for donating for the children, of course. Alright, so it looks like we've got a cleared out timer. I'll give everyone just a couple more seconds, but timing starts the same as it started for 80 dragons when I hit this input. So as long as everybody is ready, interrupt me if you're not, timing is going to start in 3, 2, 1, go. So this is Spyro any percent. Some people call this straight any percent or glitched any percent to differentiate it from any percent no balloonist skip. Any percent no balloonist skip is sort of the standard any percent. It's the one where you know, get the gems, get the dragons, get the eggs, all that. But as we learned from 80 Dragons, we ain't got time for that. So we're gonna be doing the same glitch off of a different dragon this time. And we're gonna just end up straight in Nasty Narc. So for now, we are still under the same limitations that we were for 80 Dragons. We need those 10 dragons in order to leave Artisan's World. So I am just gonna be zipping to those as quickly as possible. The routing will be a little different because, you know, since we don't need all the dragons, we're not gonna be going to quite the same places. But the goal of any percent is to toast Nasty Nork right on the butt cheeks. And then the timing will stop as soon as we do that. And thank you everybody in chat for the GGs. It was a fun run. So Astra's gonna be the last dragon that we get. That was actually a minor menuing thing. It doesn't make a difference, but when you quit the game from inside a level, it will default to quit game the next time that you try to quit a level, instead of defaulting to exit level. So that's why we just hop to the menu real quick.
We have a donation from Dark Fox. Comment, Nasam Piken.
And here in Town Square, we'll be doing the same thing again. We're going to be allowing the fairy, or, you know, positioning ourselves so that the fairy will pick us up on that invisible hitbox and let us jump to the end of the level. Fairies are really just what makes these Spyro categories tick, it seems. These glitched ones, at least. They are certainly the buggiest part of the game. Fairy's name is Zoe, for anybody who didn't know. She does actually have a name. I don't think they ever say it in Spyro 1. So we'll use the guidebook that time to hop out of that level, again because it's closer to where we want to be to guidebook than it is to exit the level. So there's our 10th dragon, that's all we need. And so we're off to the balloonist. Same principle applies here. Same principle applies. We're gonna get fairy storage in the next world. But this time we're going to do it off of Titan. He is the dragon that you first encounter when you go to Peacekeepers. The one who kind of, you know, gives you an overview about like, oh, they've stolen our treasure, get it back. Titan is much harder to get fairy storage off of, because when we were dealing with Magnus, when we were trying to glide away from the fairy, Magnus was on a hill, so we could glide downhill and stay in the air longer. Titan is on flat ground, so we really do need to sort of be careful with how we glide in order to make sure that we can get fairy storage off of Titan. Okay, that setup shall not work if the camera's like that.
Hi, Spyro. Hi, Spyro. Hi, Spyro.
Okay, let's just check one more time. Good. So as you can see, we can bring up the fairy dialog box anywhere because we have fairy storage. That's going to let us control Spyro while we're in the balloon. And so we'll ask to go to Artisans because it's the only place we can go.
Hop on, Spyro.
And then we will gain control of Spyro, charge out of the balloon, and try to land in this dev tool one more time. This setup was a bit yuckier. Woof! Had to make that jump blind, but we made it. Alright, so it's going to be loading Artisans and Nasties at the same time. Oh. Well, I've soft locked us. That's not actually a problem. I might as well show you the soft lock. We are actually going to have to come out and come back in. I honestly can't complain about that because it's just as interesting to see the soft locks. Now, the reason that the soft lock happened was because you really only have a couple of frames in which to hit the input for the next world. When I'm in the dev balloon, I have, you know, between 6 and 10 frames to hit, you know, go to Nasty's world. And I was a little bit late that time, and so we soft locked. But we should have some good news here. I hope. Please. No, okay. So Nasty's world is closed. The game caught up with us. This is what backup saves are for. It's also what a longer estimate is for. So we'll do it again. We are here in Peacekeepers. This backup save already has Titan freed. So we'll get fairy storage again and we will do the same thing again. Except hopefully this time we will not lock ourselves out of Nasty's world. The dragon head was there because the point of the glitch, right, relies on the game not realizing that you're in Nasty's world for long enough to display, or not display, I suppose, the dragon heads. So we gave it enough time to load the dragon heads, and so, you know, Nasty's world was blocked off. We couldn't get to Nasty Nork. Alright, let me focus here. Alright, hopefully that should be a bit better. Yeah, okay, we've actually got Artisan's World underneath us, so that worked. We're good to go. But one hiccup on the quest to toast Nasty's butt cheeks. So as you can see now, the dragon head is not here and we can get in here. I'm actually kind of psyched that it's soft locked. I love watching, like, when you're trying to break a game, even if you break it and it doesn't work but it still breaks, it's still exciting. The soft locks are so fun to watch. So Spyro in that soft lock would have just fallen forever. Like, eventually the whole screen would have just gone dark as he fell out of the world box. But we don't have time to watch that whole thing. So Nasty's up on a pedestal, and we've got to get these key thieves to bring his pedestal down to our level because Spyro's a little shorty and he can't jump up onto it because he's not tall enough. So we got those two key thieves. That was actually an early second key thief. We got him essentially as soon as we were able to, which is great. So we'll chase Nasty around. We can't, you know, flame him here and just win the fight. We do have to actually chase him. He has a huge hitbox around him, so if you get too close, it's actually possible to just bounce off of him and fall into the magma. Pudding, whatever that is. Purple pudding. So we'll flame him once here to get him to move on to the final boss stage. And timing is going to stop in just a minute here when I flame Nasty for the second time. Take this careful just to make sure we don't fall in the lava. And time.
You're toast, Nork.
I mean, we can check the in-game time, but it's not really gonna matter. So that is the end of Spyro Any Percent. We have toasted Nasty. We have sort of, kind of, not really, saved the Dragon Realms. And we would come in with a time of apparently 3:08, which is actually really not that bad. The world record is 2:59, so not bad. Thank you all for watching, for donating for the Any Percent, donating to save the children, and just for tuning in general. I had a blast. I hope that the runs that I did were enjoyable for you as well, and stick around and watch more great runs. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the Enrichment Center. First up, conversion gel. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Let's all stay positive and do some science. Yes, sir. Lemon.
Hello everyone, I'm Gander. We just finished up with that run by SableDragonRook. It's really nice to see that, especially that jump that happened later in the game. I didn't know you could do that. That's one of the things I really enjoy about speedrunning, is being able to see all of the ways people do things in the game and use the different things that the game provides in creative ways to make things go by really quickly. And we are collecting money for Save the Children. We've pulled in $151 so far, and we made the $100 for the incentive to get that Any Percent run in there, which was also awesome to see. Did not know that game could be beaten that quick. Really good to watch that happen. Who better, though, to talk about Save the Children, though, than they themselves? We have a video we're going to put on you for a moment that will talk a little bit more about them and what they do.
The cycle of poverty that we see a lot of families staying in is a very toxic kind of stress. You know, it's living life on this edge of the cliff and you never know what's going to push them off.
What's the hardest thing about being a kid?
Growing up.
Imagine trying to go to school and focus on learning when your stomach's growling, not knowing if they're going to get to eat dinner at home.
We try to make a safe haven with our programs and give them a chance to be kids and enjoy learning.
When you read a book, it takes you somewhere. It's an adventure. Reading's hard for me, but now it's a blast.
The confidence that our programs build in children is something that you cannot put a price on.
They helped me get an education, which I think is pretty cool.
The cycle of poverty that we see a lot of.
And coming up next on the stream, folks, we are going to be having a Dark Souls 2 speedrun to show off for you. The Dark Souls series is widely known, I would say, for its difficulty, and speedruns of it are always a lot of fun to watch. This is going to be an all achievements run, so if you want to see a game be totally dismantled, that's the type of run I think you'd want to watch. There is a bid war taking place during this game for you to choose who to help in the game. And the two options are you can help Pate or you can help Creighton as your two options. And whichever one is the higher at the time that they reach the point in the game to make the decision is going to be the one that we go with. And there is currently 0-0 tie on that. So whoever wants to get that started, throw $1 at it, and you'll be in the lead, and you can get things rolling. And all of that money does go to Save the Children, which we did just watch a brief little video on that. And coming up beyond Dark Souls, later on today, we've got the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time bingo after this, and there's a Pokemon Stadium Gym Leader Castle round 1 is going to be on after that, 2 games from now. And you can see the donation incentives. We have them up on the screen for what's going to be happening next. There is a Pokemon Stadium minigame 3-win speedrun incentive that's there, and then Pokemon Puzzle Challenge, you can choose the Pokemon used for the run. Anyone who is a long-time viewer, donator, watcher, participant in video game speedrun marathons know that anytime you have an opportunity to choose the Pokemon for a runner, that is a great opportunity to troll the runner for a good cause. They knew what they signed up for. It looks like things are all set and ready to go for Dark Souls 2. We're going to take you into that, folks. Enjoy the show.